It was a cold winter morning when we moved into Diane's spacious two-story house. I remember looking around, thinking how lucky we were to be offered such a generous helping hand. "Megan, isn't this wonderful? Mom's house is big enough for all of us, and Lily will have so much space to play," Jason said as he unloaded our things. I nodded, holding our little Lily close to me. "It's a kind gesture, Jason. It'll help us, especially with Lily's condition and my work," I replied, genuinely grateful. Diane appeared at the door, smiling. "I hope you'll be comfortable here. I thought it would be easier for Lily and, well, for all of us to be together," she said. "Thank you, Diane. It means a lot to us," I replied. The first few weeks seemed perfect. Diane would sometimes cook our favorite meals, and Jason would often return from work with a bright smile, knowing we were all under one roof. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I began to feel a change in the air. One day, while I was on my laptop in the living room working on an important project, Diane walked in, commenting, "Another day of leisure for you, huh?" I was taken aback. "I'm working, Diane," I said. She chuckled, staring at the screen. "Isn't work, dear. In my time, work meant getting your hands dirty," she said before leaving. Before I could reply, Jason walked in. "Mom, Megan's job is different, but I get it. It's hard to understand," he said. I thought he was defending me, but his tone hinted otherwise. Later that evening, when Lily was in bed, I tried talking to Jason. "Did you mean what you said earlier about my job being hard to understand?" I asked. He shrugged. "I mean, you're always at home. It does look like you have a lot of free time," he said. Jason's comment stung. Just because I work from home doesn't mean I'm not working. "My job is demanding," I replied. "I didn't mean it that way. It's just, different," he said. That night I lay in bed reflecting on the changes. It wasn't just Diane's passive-aggressive comments or Jason's growing indifference, it was the house. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. What I once saw as a haven was now becoming a cage. Days blended into each other, and the undercurrent of tension grew. Diane's snide remarks about my job became a daily affair, and Jason seemed more distant than ever. One Friday evening, after tucking Lily into bed, I decided to take a look at our joint bank account. Jason and I had always maintained transparency in our finances, pooling our incomes and sharing expenses. The routine check was just to ensure that we were sticking to our savings plan, especially with the mounting medical expenses for Lily. However, as I logged into our account, I felt a knot forming in my stomach. The available balance was much lower than I expected. Curious, I clicked on the statement to see a list of transactions. My eyes widened as I saw several large withdrawals for Party Central and numerous purchases from Shop on Couch premium package. I felt a mix of confusion and anger. Pulling out a notepad, I quickly jotted down the figures. Over the past few months, there had been a substantial drain on our savings, and none of it was for household expenses or Lily's medical needs. The next morning, I approached Jason. "We need to talk about our account," I said. He looked up from his cereal. "What about it?" "We've been spending a lot more than we budgeted for, and what's this Party Central and Shop on Couch premium package?" I asked, showing him the figures I jotted down. "Oh, that," he replied nonchalantly. "The guys and I have been going out on Fridays, just to relax and unwind. It's nothing big. And the shopping channel." I pressed on, trying to keep my voice steady. Diane, overhearing our conversation, stepped into the room. "Oh, that's just some stuff I ordered. I saw some nice things on TV." "We can't afford these right now," I said, trying to reason with them. "It's just a few things, Megan. Why are you overreacting?" Diane snapped back. "I'm not overreacting," I retorted. "We have shared expenses, and we need to save for Lily's needs. We can't spend recklessly. Jason sighed. Look, I need some time with my friends, and Mom likes those TV products. What's the big deal? It's not like you don't spend. I spend on essentials, I shot back. Not on parties and unnecessary things, Diane scoffed. You make it sound like we're burning through cash. It's not a crime to indulge once in a while. But every week, I exclaimed, my voice raising. The room was thick with tension. Neither Jason nor Diane seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Our savings, which were meant to ensure a secure future for us, were being frittered away. It was clear that our views on finances were vastly different. Diane's careless spending and Jason's nonchalant attitude were alarming. I realized that the promise of a shared future based on mutual understanding and respect was beginning to crumble. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust and shared responsibilities. I walked away feeling more isolated than ever. The reality of our situation was becoming clearer by the day, and the once harmonious house was now filled with discord and resentment. One evening after work, I decided to treat myself to something I hadn't done in a long time, shopping. I headed to a nearby boutique, and after browsing for a bit, I spotted a gorgeous dress. It was simple yet elegant, perfect for an upcoming work event. As I checked the price tag, I hesitated for a moment. It was slightly over my usual budget for clothing, but then I thought of the hard work I'd put in, the hours spent on projects, and the recent bonus I'd received. I deserved this, feeling a sense of joy I hadn't felt in a while. I purchased the dress and headed home, excited to show Jason and hoping it would bridge the growing gap between us. However, my excitement quickly faded when I walked into the living room. Diane and Jason were sitting on the couch, engrossed in a TV show. I cleared my throat. Hey, look what I got for the work event next week, as I pulled out the dress. Diane's eyes immediately zeroed in on the price tag. That seems expensive, she remarked. It's a bit more than usual, but it's for a special event, I explained, hoping for some support from Jason. But Jason just looked at the dress and said, Did we really have the money for this? Feeling cornered, I replied, It's from my bonus. I thought it'd be okay. Diane scoffed. After making such a fuss about our expenses, you go and buy this? Jason chimed in. Mom's right. You lecture us about saving and then go on a shopping spree. It's just one dress, Jason, I exclaimed, my voice rising. I work hard too. Can I treat myself once in a while? Diane's voice dripped with sarcasm. Sure, while the rest of us tighten our belts. The joy I had felt moments ago was now replaced with humiliation and anger. I couldn't believe that after all the reckless spending on their part, they were criticizing me for one purchase. I retreated to our room, clutching the dress, feeling more alone than ever. The dress, which was meant to be a symbol of my accomplishments, now felt like a burden. Lily's health had always been fragile, and on this particular week she came down with a high fever. I took some days off work to care for her, but on Thursday I received an urgent call. My boss needed me in the office for an essential presentation. I was in a dilemma. I couldn't leave Lily alone. I approached Diane, hoping she would understand. Diane, I have a request. Can you please watch over Lily? Jason or I have a crucial meeting at work. Diane looked up from her magazine, clearly annoyed. Again, why can't you handle your work without leaving your sick child? I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, I pleaded. She sighed dramatically. Fine, but just this once, relieved. I thanked her and went to inform Jason about the plan. Diane has agreed to watch Lily, Jason. Can you come home early just to make sure everything's okay? Jason, who was scrolling through his phone, seemed distracted. Sure, I'll try, he replied. The next day, as I was getting ready for work, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Diane. "Sorry, dear. My friends just called. They want to meet up. I can't watch Lily today." Panicking, I called Jason. "Can you come home? Diane can't watch Lily." There was a long pause before he replied, "Megan, I can't. I've got a lot going on today." "Diane promised she would, and now she's bailing. I need your help," I implored. He sighed. Okay, I'll leave work early, but you owe me one." Relieved, I quickly got dressed and left for work. Hours later, as I was wrapping up the presentation, I received a call from the school's nurse. "Mrs. Johnson, Lily's fever has spiked. She's in a lot of distress." My heart raced. "I'll be there right away." When I arrived at the school, the sight of my little girl, flushed and in tears, broke my heart. I wrapped her in my arms and tried to soothe her. Why wasn't she at home? Where was Diane or Jason? I thought furiously. Upon reaching home, I found the house empty. Hours later, Jason strolled in, the smell of alcohol strong on his breath. "Where were you?" I demanded. Jason blinked in confusion. "What? I told I'd come home early, but the guys wanted to hang out." "So you promised," I shouted. "Lily was alone and unwell. Do you even care?" Diane entered the scene looking displeased. "What's all this noise?" "Lily was left alone. She was sick, and neither of you were there," I cried, holding back tears. Diane rolled her eyes. "You always make a scene. She's just a kid. She'll bounce back." I was at my wit's end. "This is not a home," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I can't do this any more." Jason looked taken aback. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't working. We need to make changes," I said, my voice firm. The room was thick with tension. Diane looked smug, while Jason seemed confused. As for me, it was clear. This was the breaking point. Things had to change. The days that followed were filled with introspection. Seeing Lily so vulnerable had shaken me deeply, and I spent hours contemplating our future. The house was eerily quiet, the tension palpable. One evening, as I was sitting in my room, there was a soft knock at the door. It was Lily. She climbed onto the bed beside me, her tiny face solemn. "Mommy, why is everyone so sad?" I took a deep breath, holding back my tears. "Sometimes adults have disagreements, sweetie." I hugged her tighter. "I don't like it. I want everyone to be happy." Her innocent words struck a chord. I realized I had to make a change, not just for my well-being, but for Lily's future. The next morning, I met with a lawyer to discuss the possibility of a divorce. As we spoke, it became evident that while the journey wouldn't be easy, it was necessary. A few days later, I mustered up the courage to talk to Jason. "We need to talk," I began, my voice shaking. He looked up from his laptop. "About us, this situation," I replied, motioning around the house. He sighed. "Not this again." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Jason, I've decided to file for divorce." He looked at me stunned. "You're overreacting. We just hit a rough patch." "It's more than that," I replied, my voice firm. "I can't raise Lily in this environment. She deserves better." He looked away. "So you're just giving up on us?" "I'm choosing what's best for Lily and me." There was a long pause before he finally spoke. "Fine, if that's what you want," I nodded. "It's what's needed." The following week, as I was packing our belongings, Diane entered the room. She looked at the boxes and scoffed. "Running away?" I looked at her, starting fresh. She smirked. "You think you'll manage on your own?" "For Lily, I'll manage anything." I replied with determination. Diane just huffed and left the room. The day we moved out was emotional. The house that once held dreams and promises was now just a painful reminder of what was lost. As I locked the door for the last time, I looked back, a mix of sadness and hope in my heart. Lily held my hand. It'll be okay, right, Mommy? I smiled at her. Yes, sweetie, we'll be just fine. Our new apartment was cozy and small, nestled in a quiet neighborhood. I remember the first night we moved in. Boxes were strewn everywhere, and I had just managed to set up Lily's bed. As we lay there listening to the sounds of the city outside, she whispered, "I like it here, Mommy." I kissed her forehead. "Me too, sweetie. It's our new beginning." The next few weeks were busy. I juggled work and setting up our new home, making sure Lily felt settled and secure. My work colleagues were supportive, especially my boss, who often checked in to see how we were doing. One evening, as I was making dinner, there was a knock on the door. Opening it, I was met with the smiling face of our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, a kind elderly lady. She held out a freshly baked pie. "Thought you two could use a warm welcome," I smiled, touched by her gesture. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson, that's really sweet." She winked. "Just call me June, and any time, dear." The community around us was warm and welcoming. Slowly the shadows of our past began to fade as Lily and I got involved in various activities. Lily joined a dance class and made new friends, while I discovered a local book club where I met like-minded individuals. One evening, as Lily and I sat on our balcony, she looked up at me. "Mommy, do you think Daddy misses us?" The question took me by surprise. I sighed, choosing my words carefully. "I'm sure he does, in his own way." She nodded. "I sometimes miss the big house." I pulled her close. "But do you like it here?" She smiled. "Yes, I have new friends, and Mrs. Patterson gives me cookies." We both laughed. Life wasn't without its challenges. Managing finances, ensuring Lily's needs were met, and balancing work was tough, but I took each day as it came. I began to get a grip on our expenses, started saving, and even dabbled in some investments. My background in finance certainly came in handy. One day I received a call from an old college friend, Mark. "Megan, it's been ages. How have you been?" We chatted for a while, catching up on old times. Mark was now part of a startup, and they were looking for investors. The project seemed promising, and after some thorough research, I decided to invest. To my surprise, the venture took off, and the returns were beyond my expectations. Suddenly, our financial situation changed for the better. But more than the money, it was the sense of accomplishment that meant the world. One evening, June invited us over for dinner. As we sat around her dining table, she looked at me with a twinkle in her eye. "You've done well, Megan. I admire your strength." I smiled. "Thank you, June. It's been a journey." She nodded. "And it's just the beginning." Looking at Lily, who was busy with her dessert, I realized she was right. We had faced our fair share of challenges, but we had also found our path. This was indeed a new beginning. A few months after my new beginning, life had found a rhythm, and every day felt like a blessing. Then, out of the blue, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in a while. Jason. "Hello, Jason," I greeted cautiously. "Megan." His voice sounded odd, a mix of false cheer and underlying desperation. "How have you been?" "I've been well, thanks. And you?" I asked, more out of politeness than genuine interest. There was a pause. "I've been thinking, Megan, maybe we were too hasty in our decisions. What do you say about giving us another chance?" I was taken aback. "Why now?" He hesitated. "Well, I've heard things are going well for you financially. We could support each other, you know." The implication was clear. I remembered the joint account and how my earnings were treated as our money, while his wasteful expenditures were never discussed. I decided to play along. "How's Lily? Have you been keeping tabs on her health?" "Oh, she's your responsibility now, isn't she?" he replied dismissively, confirming my worst suspicions. "Look, Megan, Mom and I have had some bad luck. We've burned through our savings and have some debt. So you thought you'd return to the safety net you abandoned? I replied coldly. He tried to laugh it off. Oh, come on, Megan, families stick together, right? Not when the family abandons one of their own, I retorted. There was silence on the line. So you won't consider my offer, Jason? You've made your choices and I've made mine. I've learned my worth, and it's not as a safety net for someone who never valued me. The city skyline was a mesmerizing sight from the expansive windows of my new office. With a recent promotion, I had moved to the top floor, and the view was symbolic of how far I'd come. My work, once dismissed as mere internet stuff, was now at the forefront of the company's operations. A chime from my computer alerted me to a new email, and I was pleased to find it was a congratulatory note from the CEO on the success of my latest project. While I was immersed in my work, my colleague Jenny walked in with a cheeky grin, holding a tablet. "Have you seen this, Megan?" It was a local news article. My ex-husband's face was on it, along with a story about the foreclosure of their house due to mounting debts. The article mentioned how he had spiraled after our divorce with lavish spending habits that he could no longer maintain. Jenny raised an eyebrow. "Didn't see that coming, did you?" I sighed. No one should have to go through that, but he made his choices. He's lost most of his friends too, apparently. He can't finance their Friday night parties anymore. That didn't surprise me. Those friends were around only for the good times, drawn to the allure of freebies and luxurious parties anyway. Jenny changed the topic. "Heard you're being considered for another project, the European expansion." I nodded, smiling. Yes, I'm prepping for it. It's going to be challenging but exciting. Jenny left, and I took a break, stepping out onto the balcony attached to my office. The breeze felt calming, and as I looked down, I saw the coffee shop where I had last seen my ex-mother-in-law. She was animatedly talking to her circle of friends, probably recounting embellished tales about how heartless I was for not extending a helping hand to them in their time of need. I could have felt bitter or angry, but I didn't. I had shed the weight of their toxic influence, and now I was soaring, both professionally and personally. That evening, as I picked up Lily from her after-school class, her teacher, Mrs. Allen, approached me. "Megan, I must say Lily's resilience and strength are commendable. She's an excellent student and a joy to have in class." "Thank you, Mrs. Allen. She's my rock," I replied, beaming with pride. As we drove home, Lily chatted about her day. "Mom, we learned about caterpillars turning into butterflies today. They go through so much change." I smiled at her. Yes, and sometimes change is necessary to become something beautiful.
My name is Wendy Stone, and I work in architecture at a major house building company. I decided to master this job while I was a student. My father, who died in an accident shortly after I started middle school, had always dreamed of obtaining his architect's license and starting his ideal company. Unfortunately, he passed away before realizing that dream. I vowed to fulfill his dream in his stead. From that time, I have lived with a goal in mind. I am now married and live with my husband, Ryan. We do not have children. I love my work and knew that having children would change my ability to work as before. When we married, Ryan understood that I did not want children at the moment. Wendy. Good job today. Do you have time after the meeting? What's up? I have some things I'd like to discuss, and maybe we could go out for a drink? How about we have a small home party instead? I have some good wine at home. That sounds great. I'd love to go. Then, let's do some shopping after the meeting and head home early for once. Yay! As promised, I left work early that day, taking Katie my most cherished junior colleague, back to my apartment. We quickly prepared some easy dishes and some delicatessen bought from the supermarket and began drinking. Although we had gone out to drink and eat many times before, this was the first time I had invited her to my home. Being at home, we drank without restraint. Since it's a day off tomorrow, why don't you stay over? But your husband will be home soon, right? I really shouldn't impose. He'll be back soon, but it's totally fine. While we were talking, my husband came home. I'm home. Oh. Do we have a guest? Welcome back. This is Katie, a junior colleague from work. We're having a little home party today. Nice to meet you. I've always been taken care of by Wendy. No problem, can I join too? Sure, I'll get you a glass. And so, the three of us ended up drinking together. Little did I know, this would lead to a turn in my life. Having just finished a big project and due to continuous overtime, I was quite tired and fell asleep early on the sofa, leaving the two of them alone. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I could vaguely see them having fun in the distance. I wondered if they were still drinking, but I went back to sleep. When I woke up the next day, Katie was gone. Good morning, you slept well. It's already noon. Wow. I slept that much. Where's Katie? She left this morning. I drove her to the station. She said not to wake you up because you were tired, such a considerate junior. I'm sorry, you must have been up late, right? No, we didn't drink that late. At this moment, I felt something odd about my husband's words, but didn't pursue it further. I clearly remembered waking up in the middle of the night. I thought they had been enjoying their time drinking late, but why he hid that fact? Whether he was considerate of me, I said nothing at the time. Then, 3 months passed, and I invited Katie to drink at home again. I'm not feeling well lately, I've stopped drinking. What's wrong? Are you ill? It's nothing serious, maybe I've been drinking too much lately. I see. Let me know if there's anything. My husband would be happy too, so come visit again. Ah. Yes. Weeks later, after finishing overtime, I came home to find Ryan and Katie there. Oh. What's up? Did you come to visit? Though, it seems like that's not the case. Wendy, could you sit down? What? Actually, that day when we drank together and you fell asleep, Katie and I ended up alone, and I was giving her some advice. We started talking regularly since then because we still had things to discuss. Okay. Since then, we've met several times without telling you. Ah, I see. Why didn't you tell me? Was there a reason you couldn't say anything? Wendy, I'm really sorry. Katie and I are dating. What? I'm really sorry, she's pregnant. It's my child. Wendy, could we get a divorce? Wait, what? Katie is the junior I've been caring for, right? I know that very well, that's why I'm truly sorry. Katie was just crying next to Ryan. Normally, this situation would be very unsettling, but I was thinking calmly at the time. Perhaps, being so dedicated to my work, I must have been a boring wife to him. Although there was a problem with the person he cheated with, I wasn't very shocked by the fact that he cheated. I'm okay with the divorce. I don't need any compensation. But if Katie is pregnant, it's best she quits her job. I can't keep looking after a junior who's pregnant with my husband's child. Wendy. Katie, there's no use crying. If anyone should be crying, it's me who was betrayed by both my husband and my junior. Yet if you cry so much, I can't even do that. I maintained my composure until the end. I can live on my own, and Ryan probably wanted children sooner or later. So this is for the best. That was my honest feeling at the time. Wendy, thank you truly. This is an amicable divorce, I appreciate it. Normally, this kind of story would become very complicated. Since I accepted it so easily, it's natural that Ryan and Katie would feel grateful to me. However, I couldn't forget the frustration I felt at that time. After our divorce was finalized, they got married and became a family. I have my own life goals. I wanted to think that this was the right decision for me. Sometime after the divorce, I got in touch with a senior from university, who had always been on the same career path as me. He was 2 years older than me, and we had met in various exams, and always clicked well in conversation. He had joined a different major company before me, and we occasionally kept in touch. But the contact naturally faded after he got married and employed. Wendy, long time no see. I heard through the grapevine that a powerhouse career woman got divorced. So I thought now would be a good time to boldly ask you out to dinner. Are you available? If it were you, Jeff, I would have come running even if I were still married. Obviously, I couldn't ask then. It would have been disrespectful to your husband. You're as thoughtful as ever, Jeff. I'm free today, actually. Great. Let's go out today then. This was the first time I was going out to eat with someone after the divorce. Since then, I hadn't thought much about anything other than work. With dinner with Jeff planned, I was actually a bit excited about something other than work. The afternoon flew by, and I finished work a bit early, got ready, and headed to our meeting place. Jeff arrived at the restaurant right on time. It's been a while. Wendy, really long time no see. I've been hearing about your achievements. How have you been? After the divorce, things were a bit hectic, but it's settled down now. I'm thinking about planning the next steps for my work. It must have been tough. Is everything okay with that now? I think they're probably living peacefully now that they've remarried. And I've moved on and am living comfortably on my own. That's tough. As for me, I'm still the same, always alone. How's work going? I've been keeping an eye on your successes too. I actually invited you today to talk about work. When I heard you got divorced, I honestly thought, now's the time. What do you mean? Wendy. How about we start that company you've always dreamed of, together? Me? With you, Jeff? I've always thought if I were to go independent, I'd do it with you. But when you got married, I was unsure about the future. And just hung around at my current company. I never thought you'd think so highly of me, Jeff. Wendy, I've always known you've been setting goals for your future for a long time. I don't want to get in your way, but if being by your side can help make a shortcut. And if I can be of help, I'd like to start a business together. Is that okay? Thank you. But please let me think about it a little. Of course, I'm thinking positively. Understood. Let's put this conversation aside for now and just enjoy today. Let's eat and drink a lot. Yes. I had never considered starting a business with someone else. Should I involve someone else in the simple childhood dream of fulfilling my father's dream? I have always respected Jeff, he's reliable. And more importantly, he has achievements and connections. If I were to start a company, he would be the best partner. Today was truly enjoyable, and we spent a long time reminiscing about the old days. From this day on, Jeff and I started going out to eat more frequently. At this time, I found myself enjoying the time spent with Jeff. looking forward to meeting him again and feeling a different emotion. Perhaps if I had felt this way about Ryan, we wouldn't have ended up divorcing. And then, I made a big decision. To put an end to what had been with Jeff and start anew. That was my resolution. Today, I was going to see Jeff. Jeff, sorry for the sudden visit today. It's always something with you, Wendy, but I'm used to it now. That's right. I have something important to discuss today. Oh. Yes. Jeff, even though I've failed once, will you date me with the intention of getting married? Ah. What? Sorry it's so sudden. No. I mean, I thought we were talking about work, so I was surprised. Let me answer you straight. We don't need any conditions. Let's get married. Really? I've liked you since college, Wendy, so there's no reason for me to refuse your proposal. Does that mean I took the long way around? You stopped contacting me after you got a job, and before I knew it, you got married. I thought I shouldn't disturb you once you became a working professional. That's very like you, Wendy. But now that we've reconnected, I'm satisfied. From that moment, we started dating. Reconnecting with him whom I've known for so long, I fell in love with him. And the concern of fulfilling my father's dream with someone else seemed less significant. If that someone was my partner in marriage. We prepared to start our marriage and our company. Clearly defining our work-life balance and enjoying the little time we had as lovers. We continued our jobs while preparing for independence. And simultaneously designed and built a new house with an office on the first floor. And our home on the second and third floors. My new life began with a divorce. Soon, we would leave our current companies and start a big challenge. Still, as long as we were together, I felt nothing but positive. And surprisingly, I told him I wanted children, something I had never felt before. We were simply happy. And once the construction of our new home was completed, our new life truly began. Our work went smoothly, and we became a topic in the industry due to our well-prepared start. Then one day, Ryan called. Ryan? What's up? Wendy, could we meet sometime soon? What's the matter? I have something I want to discuss. Just hold on a moment. I put Ryan on hold and told Jeff about the call at the desk where he was working. And checked if it was okay to go. We just started our new office, and I'm busy. Could you come to the office instead? I conveyed this to Ryan. He seemed surprised. Then, he said he would visit with Katie and the child. I gave him the address and hung up. With a wonderful person like Jeff and in such a stylish office that we designed. Ryan wouldn't think his cheating ex-wife is living an unhappy life. Anyone would see that we are happy, don't worry. And then, Ryan visited the office with Katie. From the look of it, Katie didn't have the same sparkle she had when she worked with me. Appearing plain and not showing any signs of happiness. Sorry for intruding. Wendy, it's been a while. Sorry to bother you while you're busy. It's fine, take a seat for now. This office is impressive. You really made your dream come true. Congratulations. Thank you, but there's still a long way to go. Here's some coffee. I designed this place and started the company with him. Nice to meet you. I'm working over there, so please take your time. Sorry for barging into your office like this. So, what's going on? Katie, you seem quite different. Is everything not going well? Actually, soon after Wendy and I divorced, I was laid off and lost my job. What? I looked for a job right away but couldn't find anything, and then our child was born. I wanted to care for them, so I've been working part-time jobs that allow me some freedom. But I can't keep this up forever. So why come to me? Well, I was hoping you could introduce me to some work. Ah. Even if it's not for me, maybe you could talk to Katie's former workplace to take her back. I was a bit troubled when Jeff intervened. Sorry to interrupt, but isn't it wrong to ask her for that? What? I don't mean to speak out of turn, but she's my wife. I'd appreciate it if you didn't underestimate her. Considering what you two have done, why would you even come here? Isn't it shameful? It's disgraceful. Let's go home. Katie, if you're confident in the work you did at the company, why not contact them yourself? I always thought of you as a competent subordinate. Have confidence. Wendy. Don't look so sad. It's not good for the child if their mom looks like that. You were right to divorce him. Found a good man and moved on quickly, huh? How can you say that? But it's true, right? Maybe you planned that day when Katie came? Waiting for something to happen between us. That's terrible. Just go home. That's right, please leave. She's not like that, and I was the one who contacted her after a long time. It's not like she reached out because we divorced. Wow. But even when you're together, all she thinks about is work, right? It must not be fun. We keep work as work. We make sure to go out on dates every week. And thoroughly enjoy our time together, don't we? It seems that wasn't the case when you were married. But ultimately, you say you don't want kids because you're career people, right? That's why you can't really be a family. That was your experience, was it? She told me she wants children once things settle down with the office. We brought the living quarters upstairs to make it easier for her to work. Katie. Let's go. Yes. Wendy, you were right to divorce me. Be happy. Ryan, take care. Treat Katie well. That day, I showed my ex-husband my success. I don't know what they're up to now, but I hope, since that day, they have managed to turn things around and are doing well. A year later, we welcomed our long-awaited baby. I worked hard during my pregnancy, but now I'll let my husband handle the work, while I focus on raising our child. I am undoubtedly happy. My father, too, must be smiling down from afar.
I'm Rachel, a 32-year-old who used to think that fairy tales had happy ends. When I met Mark, the guy who would become my husband, 3 years ago, my life took an unexpected turn. This is our story, an apparently flawless marriage serving as the backdrop for a journey of love, trust, and ultimately betrayal. I was destined to find the corner cafe on a typical Tuesday morning. Holding a John Grisham book, I became engrossed in the realm of legal thrillers. At that point, Mark showed up. It didn't take long to notice him. Although he exuded confidence, there was an enticing warmth to his smile. "Hi, is that the most recent work by Grisham?" he inquired, gesturing to my book. His tone was kind and full of sincere interest. "Yes, I've just started," I replied, pleasantly surprised by how easy our discussion flowed. He's always a good read. We struck up a conversation that flowed as we discussed our favorite authors. Mark had a funny and charming sense of humor that always made me smile. Ours picked up speed, making us feel more like two newly acquainted acquaintances than old buddies catching up. In the weeks that followed, Mark and I grew closer. Our shared interests in music, particularly old jazz, and a mutual love for exploring hidden bookstores around the city cemented our bond. He was charming, respectful, and attentive. I found myself eagerly anticipating our dates, each encounter leaving me more enchanted. One evening as we walked along the river, Mark's tone turned serious. "Rachel, I've never felt this way before. I think I'm falling for you," he confessed under the dim glow of the streetlights. His words sent a rush of warmth through me. "I feel the same, Mark. You're unlike anyone I've ever met," I admitted, my heart racing with excitement and a hint of fear. 6 months flew by, and our relationship only grew stronger. It was during a cozy dinner at my apartment when Mark proposed. The moment was simple yet profoundly sincere. There was no hesitation in my yes. I loved him, and I believed in our future together. The joy of our engagement, however, was soon met with apprehension as the time came to meet Mark's parents. His mother, Linda, was a stern woman with piercing eyes that seemed to judge my every move. His father was more amiable, but there was an undeniable seriousness to him, especially regarding the institution of marriage. During a formal dinner at their house, Mark's father brought up the subject of a prenuptial agreement. "It's just practical," he stated matter-of-factly. The request caught me off guard, but given my past experience with a cheating ex-boyfriend, I understood the necessity. "I agree, but I have a condition," I said, steadying my voice. "If either of us cheats, the cheater owes the other $100,000. Mark's expression was a mix of surprise and respect. "I promise, Rachel, I'd never cheat on you," he said earnestly. I wanted to believe him, to trust that this time my heart was safe. Our wedding was a beautiful affair filled with laughter, dancing, and promises of forever. The first year of our marriage felt like living in a dream. We traveled to romantic destinations, enjoyed quiet evenings at home, and supported each other's ambitions. Mark was not just my husband, he was my best friend, my confidant. After the whirlwind of our wedding, Mark and I settled into married life with an ease that surprised even me. Our first year was like living in a bubble of happiness, untouched by the outside world. Our honeymoon in Paris was a dream. Strolling along the Seine, we were just two lovebirds lost in a city of love. "Can you believe we're here?" I asked Mark one evening as we watched the Eiffel Tower light up. He pulled me close and said, "With you, I can believe anything. This is just the start for us, Rachel." Those days were filled with laughter, romantic dinners, and promises of a future together. We returned home with a suitcase full of memories and a bond that felt unbreakable. Back home, our days found a comfortable routine. Mark would kiss me goodbye every morning before heading to work, and I'd be waiting with dinner when he got back. We talked about everything and nothing, our conversation stretching late into the night. One night, as we were cleaning up after dinner, Mark said, "You know, I never thought I'd be this happy just doing mundane stuff like washing dishes." I playfully splashed some water at him. "That's because you've got an amazing wife. It's all about good company," he laughed, catching the water in his hands. "Absolutely. Best decision of my life, marrying you." Despite our happiness, there was a growing pressure from outside, the expectation of starting a family. At family gatherings, Mark's mom, Linda, would often drop not-so-subtle hints. "So when are we going to hear some good news?" Linda asked one Sunday lunch, her tone laced with expectation. I tried to brush it off with a joke. "Oh, you'll be the first to know when there's news." But her persistence grew over time and started to strain me. Mark noticed my discomfort but reassured me, "Don't let my mom get to you. We'll start a family when we're ready, not a minute sooner." Despite these pressures, our first year of marriage was magical. We celebrated our first anniversary with a quiet dinner at home. Mark surprised me with a necklace I had admired months ago. "Happy anniversary, Rachel. Here's to many more years of happiness," he said, his eyes shining with love. I felt tears prick my eyes as I said, "Thank you, Mark. I couldn't have asked for a better partner in life." That night, as we cuddled on the couch, I couldn't help but feel incredibly lucky. I had a husband who loved me, a cozy home, and a future that seemed bright. As our second year of marriage began, the pressure from Mark's family, especially his mother Linda, started to take a toll on me. It wasn't just about starting a family anymore. Her criticisms seeped into every aspect of our lives. Linda had a way of making her disapproval known, often under the guise of helpful comments. Every visit became a nightmare for me. One afternoon, as I was setting the table for lunch, she walked into the kitchen and eyed the spread with a disapproving frown. "Is this what you're serving? A bit simple, don't you think?" Linda remarked, her tone dripping with disdain. I clenched my jaw, trying to maintain my composure. "I thought we'd enjoy something light today." She just sniffed, muttering under her breath about proper meals and good housekeeping. Her comments weren't just confined to my cooking. She found fault in everything I did, from the way I decorated the house to how I spent my free time. Nothing was off limits. One evening, while Mark and I were relaxing in the living room, Linda decided to give her unsolicited opinion. "You know, Rachel, if Mark gave me the money he spends on you, I could hire a proper cleaner and a cook." Mark looked uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. His silence felt like a betrayal. I was seething but managed to say, "Well, Linda, I'm doing my best here." What hurt the most was how Mark's attitude started to change. He began echoing his mother's criticisms, albeit in a more subtle way. After one of Linda's visits, Mark casually mentioned, "Mom might have a point about the house. Maybe we should consider getting some help." I felt a pang of hurt and frustration. "So you think I can't handle it either?" I asked, my voice trembling. "No, that's not what I meant," he backpedaled, but the damage was done. The constant criticisms and Mark's growing detachment were straining our marriage. We started having arguments over trivial things, our once easy conversations turning into tense exchanges. After a particularly heated argument, I found myself wondering aloud, "What happened to us, Mark? We used to be on the same team." He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. "I don't know, Rachel. It's just everything feels so complicated now." I went to bed that night feeling lonely and misunderstood. Linda's insidious comments had not only invaded my home, but were also creeping into my marriage, leaving me to wonder if the love Mark and I shared was strong enough to withstand this constant barrage of negativity. As the third year of our marriage rolled in, a sense of unease began to settle in my heart. The once bright flame of our love seemed to flicker under the shadow of doubt and mistrust. It started with a phone call, or rather, several of them. A name kept popping up on Mark's phone, Jake. I couldn't help but notice how Mark's demeanor changed whenever that name flashed on the screen. One evening, while we were watching TV, his phone rang again. Jake. The screen flashed. Mark quickly silenced it and put the phone away, but not before I saw the nervous glance he threw my way. "Who's Jake?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my heart was pounding. "Oh, just a new guy at work. No one important," Mark replied, but his voice was too nonchalant, his answer too rehearsed. Mark's behavior began to change. He started coming home late from work, his excuses flimsy and inconsistent. His wardrobe underwent a transformation too, from casual to sharply tailored suits. Working late again? I questioned one night as he prepared to leave, noticing his dressed-up appearance. "Yeah, a big project," he said without meeting my eyes. "Don't wait up." One day my frustration boiled over. As Mark was about to leave for another late night at work, I confronted him. "This isn't like you, Mark. What's really going on?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and fear. Mark sighed, his expression a mix of guilt and annoyance. "I told you it's just work. Why can't you trust me?" "Because you're hiding something. You're never here, and when you are, it's like you're a million miles away," I shot back, my eyes stinging with tears. Mark didn't respond. He just grabbed his coat and left, leaving me standing there, feeling more alone than ever. That night, lying in our empty bed, I made a decision. I couldn't live in this limbo of doubt and suspicion. I needed to know the truth, whatever it was. The next morning, I called a private detective. It felt like a betrayal, but the constant worry and uncertainty were eating me alive. I needed answers, and I was determined to get them, no matter what they revealed about the man I thought I knew. The days after contacting the private detective were a haze of anxiety and anticipation. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy while my world was quietly crumbling around me. Then the call came, and with it, the shattering of my last hope. "Mrs. Johnson, we have conclusive evidence. I'm afraid your suspicions were correct." The detective's voice was solemn, heavy with the weight of the news he was delivering. He explained that Mark had been having an affair. The mysterious Jake on his phone was actually a woman. My heart sank as he detailed their meetings, providing timestamps and photos. It was irrefutable. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling a mix of devastation and vindication. My worst fears weren't just fears anymore. They were cold, hard facts. Despite the pain, I decided not to confront Mark immediately. I needed more than just the evidence of his infidelity. I needed to understand the full extent of his deceit. One evening, as I was passing by his home office, I overheard a conversation that chilled me to the bone. Mark was talking to his mother, Linda. "Mom, I'm planning to end it with Rachel after your birthday." Mark's voice was cold, devoid of any affection he once had for me. "Oh, that's wise, dear. Make sure she gets me a nice 65th birthday present before you drop the bomb," Linda replied, her voice laced with a callousness that took my breath away. I leaned against the wall, feeling nauseous. Not only was my husband unfaithful, but he and his mother were plotting against me, waiting to use me for one last expensive gift before discarding me. Fueled by a mixture of anger and resolve, I decided to play along. I continued as if nothing was wrong while secretly gathering more evidence of Mark's infidelity. The detective provided me with everything: photos, videos, and even audio recordings. I was building my case, preparing for the moment I would strike back. As I lay in bed each night next to the man who had betrayed me, a plan began to form in my mind. I would wait until after Linda's birthday. I would give them the illusion of victory, let them think they had outsmarted me. But when they least expected it, I would reveal everything and turn the tables. As Linda's 65th birthday approached, I put on a mask of ignorance, acting as though everything was normal. Inside, I was a cauldron of emotions: anger, betrayal, and a fierce determination to see my plan through. A few days before the birthday, Linda casually mentioned her upcoming celebration during a family dinner. "So, Rachel, I'm expecting a grand 65th birthday. You must have planned something special for me," she said with a saccharine smile, clearly anticipating a lavish gift. Keeping my emotions in check, I replied with faint enthusiasm, "Of course, Linda. I've arranged a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. It'll be a night to remember." Her eyes lit up with glee, not realizing the trap I was setting. "Oh, how wonderful. I can't wait. Just a small family gathering, right?" "Yes, very intimate and exclusive, just for close family," I confirmed, my words laced with hidden irony. Later that night, Mark approached me, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "That's quite a generous plan for Mum's birthday. Are you sure about this?" I looked at him, maintaining my composure. "Absolutely. It's a significant birthday, and I want to do something special for her." Mark seemed appeased, but I could tell he was puzzled by my willingness to indulge his mother. As the day of the dinner drew near, I took care of the final arrangements. I confirmed the booking in Linda's name, rechecked the guest list, and made sure everything was set for the grand evening. I was playing the dutiful wife and daughter-in-law, but underneath the facade, I was ready to expose the betrayal and deceit that had been festering in our marriage. The night before the dinner, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. I was hours away from turning the tables on Mark and Linda. They thought they were using me for one last benefit before discarding me. Little did they know, I was the one controlling the game now. The evening of Linda's 65th birthday was set in a luxurious restaurant. Every detail was meticulously planned to reflect the grandeur of the occasion. As Linda reveled in the opulence, I played the part of the gracious daughter-in-law, masking my inner turmoil with a practiced smile. As the dinner drew to a close, the waiter presented the bill, $4,500. I reached for my card with a steady hand, my heart pounding in my chest. After swiping the card, I glanced around the table, seeing Linda's satisfied smirk and Mark's uneasy expression. "Thank you for such a wonderful evening, Rachel. This is truly generous," Linda said, her voice dripping with insincerity. It was then that Mark leaned in, his voice laced with mockery. "By the way, Rachel, I want a divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow, but I refused to let them see my pain. Linda, seizing the moment, chimed in sharply. "Well then, I guess you should leave. This is a family gathering after all." Without a word, I stood up and left the restaurant, my dignity intact despite the turmoil inside. As I walked away, I pulled out my phone and swiftly canceled the payment. Then, with a few more taps, I blocked the shared account. Mark couldn't cover the cost either. Back at home, I packed my belongings quickly, the finality of my actions setting in. I was leaving this chapter of my life behind, stepping into an uncertain but hopeful future. Soon, my phone erupted with calls. I answered, and Linda's voice, shrill with rage and panic, filled my ears. The payment didn't go through. The restaurant staff called the police. "What have you done?" Her words were a cacophony of anger and disbelief, but I remained silent, letting her tirade wash over me. This was their doing, their betrayal and manipulation coming back to haunt them. After hanging up, I looked around the empty house, a place once filled with dreams and love, now just a hollow shell. I took a deep breath, stepped out the door, and didn't look back. Their calls continued, a desperate plea for help that I no longer felt obliged to answer. I had made my move, exposed their deceit, and now it was time for me to rebuild away from the lies and the pain that had defined my life for far too long. After leaving my marital home, I spent a restless night at a friend's place, my mind racing with what needed to be done next. The morning sun brought with it a sense of clarity and determination. It was time for the final confrontation. I arrived at the house to find Mark and Linda waiting, their faces a mix of anger and confusion, clutching the divorce papers and the evidence of Mark's infidelity. I steeled myself for the battle ahead. Linda was the first to break the silence, her voice dripping with scorn. "So you've come crawling back after embarrassing us like that?" I met her gaze, unflinching. "I'm not here to crawl. I'm here for a divorce." Mark, who announced our divorce a day ago, suddenly tried to win everything back. "Rachel, can't we talk about this? It was a mistake." I cut him off, holding up the evidence. "Save it, Mark. Your mistake was ongoing and well documented." Linda scoffed, trying to regain control. "You think you can just walk away and leave us with nothing. You're nothing without us." I laid the divorce papers on the table. "Actually, it's you who will be leaving me with something. According to our prenup, Mark owes me $100,000 for his infidelity." Mark's face went pale, and Linda's eyes widened in shock as they scrambled to respond. I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. This was it, the end of the lies, the deceit, and the pain. "You can try to fight this, but the evidence is clear. I suggest you pay up and move on," I said, my voice steady. Linda had lost her customary boldness and was dumbfounded, while Mark appeared defeated. I turned and left the house without saying anything more, feeling a sense of liberation as the door closed behind me. The subsequent appeals and calls were ignored. I had permanently closed that chapter of my life. They ultimately had to pay. Although Mark needed to borrow money from his parents, I didn't give a damn where it came from. It provided some little comfort for the betrayal, but more than anything it brought finality. I felt at ease when I signed the final paperwork while sitting in the attorney's office. Despite the difficult journey filled with heartbreak and betrayal, I emerged stronger and more resilient. Feeling liberated, I ventured outside into the daylight, eager to begin afresh. Though everything remained unclear, I might still influence the future. I felt like I was finally entering the light after all the darkness.
The crash of shattering glass jolted me from my fitful sleep. I bolted upright, heart pounding, as Martha's shrill voice pierced the air. "Alex! Come quick! I've broken my favorite vase." I groaned, rubbing my eyes as I glanced at the clock. 3:17 a.m. This was the third time this week my mother-in-law had woken us in the middle of the night. I turned to Alex, expecting to see him stirring, but he was already out of bed, rushing to his mother's aid. "It's okay, Mom." I heard him soothe from down the hall. "We'll get you a new one tomorrow." I sighed, knowing full well who'd be footing the bill for that replacement. As I swung my legs over the side of the bed, my daughter Emily appeared in the doorway, her face etched with worry. "Is everything all right, Mom?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. I forced a smile. "Everything's fine, sweetie. Grandma just had a little accident. Go back to bed." Emily hesitated, then nodded and retreated to her room. I followed her out, determined to assess the damage. As I approached Martha's room, which used to be our guest room, I overheard her conversation with Alex. "Oh, darling, it was such a beautiful piece. Imported from Italy, you know. I simply must have another one just like it." "Of course, Mom," Alex replied, his tone placating. "We'll go shopping first thing in the morning." I stepped into view, arms crossed. "Alex, can I talk to you for a moment?" He looked up, startled, as if he'd forgotten I existed. "Becky, honey, can't it wait until morning? Mom's upset." "It's important," I insisted, my jaw clenched. Alex sighed, patting his mother's hand. "I'll be right back, Mom." We stepped into the hallway, and I wasted no time. "Alex, we can't afford to keep replacing everything she breaks. Do you know how much that vase cost?" He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my gaze. I know. But what am I supposed to do? She's grieving, Becky. It's only been 6 months since Dad passed." "I understand that," I said, trying to keep my voice low. "But she's burning through our savings. The credit card bills are piling up, and Emily needs new clothes for school." Alex's face hardened. "My mother needs us right now. Emily can make do with what she has for a little longer." I felt my temper flare. "And what about what we need? What about our family?" "Mom is family," he snapped. "Alex?" Martha's voice drifted from the bedroom. "Is everything all right?" "Fine, Mom," he called back, then turned to me. "We'll discuss this later. Go back to bed." As he retreated to Martha's room, I stood there, seething. This wasn't the first time Alex had chosen his mother's comfort over our family's needs, and I had a sinking feeling it wouldn't be the last. I made my way to the kitchen, knowing sleep would elude me now. As I filled the kettle for tea, I noticed a stack of shopping bags in the corner, more of Martha's recent purchases. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked inside one of the bags. My breath caught as I pulled out a designer handbag, the price tag still attached. The cost was more than our monthly grocery budget. "What are you doing?" I whirled around to find Martha standing in the doorway, her eyes narrowed suspiciously. I was just tidying up," I lied, hastily shoving the bag back into place. She sniffed, clearly not believing me. "Well, since you're up, be a dear and make me some chamomile tea. This dreadful accident has left me quite shaken." I bit back a retort, forcing a smile. "Of course, Martha, coming right up." As I prepared her tea, my mind raced. How much longer could we go on like this? Something had to give, and soon. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a storm that would tear our family apart and force me to fight for everything I held dear. I stared at the credit card statement in disbelief, my hands shaking. The balance had nearly doubled since last month, and I knew exactly why. Martha's shopping sprees were spiraling out of control. "Alex, we need to talk," I called out, my voice strained. He sauntered into the kitchen, coffee mug in hand. "What's up, honey?" I thrust the statement at him. "This is what's up. Your mother's spending is out of control. We can't keep living like this." Alex's face hardened as he glanced at the paper. "Come on, Becky. It's not that bad. Mom's just trying to feel better after losing Dad." "Not that bad," I sputtered. "Alex, we're talking thousands of dollars here. On what? Designer clothes? Antiques? Things we don't need and can't afford." He set his mug down with a clank. "What do you want me to do? Tell her she can't buy things? She's grieving, Becky." "It's been 8 months, Alex. Grief doesn't justify financial ruin." Just then, Martha breezed into the kitchen, decked out in what looked like a brand new "Good morning, dears. Alex, be a love and take me shopping today. I simply must have those new throw pillows I saw in the catalog." I watched in horror as Alex nodded without hesitation. Sure, Mom. We'll go after breakfast. Alex, I hissed, but he shot me a warning look. Martha turned to me, her smile sickeningly sweet. Oh, Becky, I almost forgot. I accidentally spilled some wine on that quilt your grandmother made. I'll need you to take it to the cleaners. My blood ran cold. That quilt was a family heirloom, irreplaceable. You what? It's just a quilt, dear, Martha said dismissively. No need to get upset. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Alex quickly intervened. Don't worry, Mom. We'll take care of it. As Martha sashayed out of the kitchen, I rounded on Alex. How can you let her treat our things, my family heirlooms, like this? He sighed, rubbing his temples. It was an accident, Becky. Let it go. Let it go? Like I'm supposed to let go of our savings? Our future? Emily's college fund? Alex's eyes flashed. That's enough. I won't have you talking about my mother like this. She's family, and we take care of family. What about our family? I shot back. What about Emily? She needs new clothes for school, but we can't afford them because your mother's buying $500 throw pillows. We'll figure it out, he said dismissively. Now, I need to get ready to take Mom shopping. As he walked away, I felt something inside me snap. I grabbed my phone and dialed my sister's number. Mackenzie? I need to talk. Can we meet for coffee? An hour later, I sat across from my sister in our favorite cafe, pouring out my frustrations. Mackenzie listened intently, her brow furrowed. Becky, this isn't healthy, for any of you. Have you considered counseling? I laughed bitterly. Alex won't hear of it. He thinks everything's fine. And what about you? She asked gently. What do you think? I stared into my coffee, fighting back tears. I think I'm losing my husband and my sanity. Mackenzie reached across the table, squeezing my hand. You need to stand up for yourself, Becky. For Emily, too. This can't go on. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Alex. Mom wants to redo the guest room. Picking out furniture now. Don't wait up. I showed Mackenzie the message, my hands trembling with anger. Her eyes widened. The guest room? Isn't that where Emily's been sleeping since Martha moved in? I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. What am I going to do, Mac? How did it come to this? Mackenzie's gaze hardened with determination. You're going to fight, sis. It's time to take back control of your life, and I'll be right here to help you do it. As I left the cafe, a mix of fear and resolve churned in my stomach. I knew a storm was coming, and I had to be ready to weather it, for myself and for Emily. I stood in the doorway of Emily's room, my heart sinking as I watched her pack her belongings into cardboard boxes. The hurt in her eyes was palpable, and it tore at my soul. Mom, why do I have to move? Emily asked, her voice cracking. This is my room. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my composure. I know, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. Your father thinks it's best if Grandma has more space. Emily slammed a book into a box. More space? For what? Her stupid antiques? Before I could respond, Alex appeared behind me. What's going on here? I turned to face him, steeling myself. Emily's upset about moving rooms, and frankly, so am I. Alex's jaw tightened. We've been over this, Becky. Mom needs the extra space. For what? I challenged. Her endless shopping sprees? That's enough, Alex snapped. Emily, finish packing. You're moving to the basement today. Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. The basement? But it's cold and damp down there. I couldn't hold back any longer. Alex, this is ridiculous. You can't put our daughter in the basement. He grabbed my arm, pulling me into the hallway. I said that's enough. This isn't up for discussion. I yanked my arm free, fury building inside me. Like hell it isn't. This is our daughter we're talking about. Mom's comfort is important too, Alex insisted. More important than Emily's? I shot back. Our raised voices drew Martha from her room. She glided towards us, a look of feigned concern on her face. What's all this fuss about? Alex turned to his mother, his voice softening. It's nothing, Mom. We're just discussing Emily's room change. Martha's eyes lit up. Oh yes, I can't wait to start decorating. I'm thinking of a Parisian theme. It'll be simply divine. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Martha, this is Emily's room. She's lived here her entire life. Martha waved her hand dismissively. She's young. She'll adapt. Now, Alex dear, I need you to take me shopping for new curtains. I watched in horror as Alex nodded, completely disregarding the pain he was causing his own daughter. Something inside me snapped. No, I said firmly. Alex and Martha turned to me, shocked. What did you say? Alex demanded. I said no, I repeated, my voice growing stronger. Emily is not moving to the basement. This is her room, and she's staying in it. Martha's face contorted with anger. How dare you speak to me like that in my own home? Your home, I laughed bitterly. This is our home. The home Alex and I built together. The home where we raised our daughter. Alex stepped between us. Becky, you're out of line. Apologize to my mother. I stared at him in disbelief. Apologize? For what? For standing up for our daughter? Emily appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Stop it! Just stop fighting! The sight of my daughter's distress fueled my resolve. I turned to Alex, my voice low and determined. This ends now. Either Martha goes or Emily and I do. A heavy silence fell over the hallway. Alex's face paled as he realized the gravity of the situation. Martha sputtered indignantly, but for once, she seemed at a loss for words. Emily moved to my side, gripping my hand tightly. I squeezed back, drawing strength from her presence. Alex looked between us and his mother, conflict etched across his face. Becky, you can't be serious. You wouldn't leave. I met his gaze steadily. Try me. As we stood there, the air thick with tension, I realized we had reached a turning point. There was no going back now. Whatever happened next would change our family forever. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for the storm that was about to break. So, Alex, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, what's it going to be? The tension in our house was suffocating. After my ultimatum, Alex had reluctantly agreed to let Emily keep her room, but the rift between us had only widened. Martha, for her part, had retreated into a sullen silence, punctuated by dramatic sighs and pointed glares in my direction. It was in this strained atmosphere that Alex announced his grand plan to fix everything. We're having a family dinner tonight, he declared over breakfast. Mom's idea. She wants to smooth things over. I eyed him skeptically. And how exactly is dinner supposed to fix this? Alex's smile was strained. Just give it a chance, Becky, please? Against my better judgment, I agreed. That evening, I found myself helping Martha in the kitchen, chopping vegetables while she stirred a pot on the stove. I hope you like bouillabaisse, Martha chirped, her tone overly sweet. It's Alex's favorite. I froze, knife hovering over a carrot. Bouillabaisse? Martha, you know Emily's allergic to shellfish. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, I'm sure it's not that serious. Besides, she can pick around it. Before I could protest further, Alex walked in. Smells great, Mom. What are we having? Your favorite, dear, Martha beamed. Bouillabaisse. I waited for Alex to object, to remember his daughter's allergy. Instead, he grinned. Perfect. I haven't had that in ages. My blood began to boil. Alex, a word? I pulled him into the hallway, keeping my voice low. Have you forgotten about Emily's allergy? She can't eat that. Alex rolled his eyes. Come on, Becky. It's not like she'll die from it. She can have a salad or something. I stared at him, dumbfounded. Are you serious right now? This is our daughter's health we're talking about. You're overreacting, he snapped. Just let Mom have this, okay? She's trying to make peace. As Alex stormed back to the kitchen, I felt a familiar hand on my shoulder. Emily had overheard everything. It's okay, Mom, she said softly. I'll just eat the bread. My heart broke at the resignation in her voice. No, sweetie, this isn't okay. Dinner was a tense affair. Martha prattled on about her latest shopping finds while Alex nodded along enthusiastically. I pushed food around my plate, my appetite gone. Emily sat silently, nibbling on a piece of bread. Emily, dear, Martha suddenly addressed her. You've hardly touched your food. Don't you like Grandma's cooking? Emily shifted uncomfortably. I can't eat it, Grandma. Remember? I'm allergic to shellfish. Martha's eyes narrowed. Don't be ridiculous. A little seafood never hurt anyone. You're just being picky. Mom, Alex interjected, maybe you could make Emily a sandwich or something? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you kidding me? Your mother makes a meal our daughter is allergic to, and your solution is to have Emily make her own dinner? Martha huffed. Well, I certainly didn't slave over a hot stove all day to cater to her imaginary allergies. That was the last straw. Emily burst into tears and ran from the table. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Imaginary, I seethed. The last time Emily ate shellfish, she ended up in the hospital. But I guess that was just her imagination too, right? Alex stood as well, his face red with anger. That's enough, Becky. You're ruining dinner. I'm ruining dinner? I laughed bitterly. You two are unbelievable. Your own daughter's health means nothing to you. As I turned to go after Emily, Martha's voice stopped me cold. You know, Alex, I always said you married beneath you, and now look at the ungrateful brats you've raised. The room fell silent. I looked at Alex, waiting for him to defend us, to stand up to his mother at last, but he said nothing. In that moment, I knew. This wasn't just about tonight's dinner. This was about years of neglect, of choosing his mother over his family. And I was done. I met Alex's gaze, my voice steady. Pack your bags. Emily and I are leaving tonight. As I walked out of the dining room to comfort my daughter and plan our escape, I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. Our lives were about to change dramatically, but for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. I sat on Mackenzie's couch, clutching a mug of tea that had long since gone cold. Emily was asleep in the guest room, exhausted from crying. We'd been at my sister's house for 3 days now, and I still felt like I was in a daze. Becky, Mackenzie said gently, you need to decide what you're going to do next. I nodded, my eyes burning with unshed tears. I know. I never thought it would come to this. Mackenzie reached out and squeezed my hand. Alex has called you 12 times. Have you listened to any of his messages? I shook my head. I can't. Not yet. Every time I think about that dinner, about how he just sat there while Martha... My voice broke, and Mackenzie pulled me into a hug. I know, sis, I know. As I pulled away, wiping my eyes, my phone buzzed. Another message from Alex. This time, curiosity got the better of me, and I hit play. Becky, please, Alex's voice crackled through the speaker. Come home. We can work this out. Mom's agreed to move into an apartment nearby. Please just give us another chance. I looked at Mackenzie, my heart racing. He says Martha's moving out. My sister's eyes narrowed. And you believe that? The doubt in her voice mirrored my own. I sighed, deleting the message. No, I don't. Mackenzie nodded, then hesitated. Becky, there's something you need to see. She pulled out her laptop and opened a series of documents. As I scanned them, my blood ran cold. What is this? I whispered. Bank statements, Mackenzie replied. I had a friend look into your finances. Alex has been funneling money into a separate account for months, an account in Martha's name. The room spun as the implications hit me. All those times I'd questioned our dwindling savings, all the excuses Alex had made. He's been lying to me, I said, my voice hollow. All this time he's been... Stealing from you, Mackenzie finished. From Emily's college fund, from your retirement savings, everything. A wave of nausea washed over me. How much? Mackenzie's face was grim. Almost everything, Becky. If you don't act soon, there might not be anything left. I stood up abruptly, pacing the room. Anger, betrayal, and fear warred within me. What am I going to do? How can I protect Emily, our future? Mackenzie stood, placing her hands on my shoulders to still my frantic movement. You fight, Becky. You take control. Starting now. She guided me back to the couch and opened another document on her laptop. I've drafted divorce papers. All you have to do is sign. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. This was it, the point of no return. If I do this, I said slowly, there's no going back. Why? Mackenzie nodded. No, there isn't. But think about Emily. Think about yourself. You deserve better than this, Becky. Both of you do. As if on cue, Emily appeared in the doorway, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. Mom, what's going on? I looked at my daughter, seeing the strength and resilience that mirrored my own. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. Come here, sweetie, I said, patting the couch beside me. As Emily sat down, I took a deep breath. We need to talk about the future, our future. Emily's eyes widened as she looked at the laptop screen. Are we? I nodded, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over me. Yes, honey. I'm filing for divorce. We're starting over. To my surprise, Emily's face broke into a relieved smile. Good, she said firmly. We don't need them, Mom. We'll be okay on our own. Tears pricked my eyes as I hugged my daughter close. Over her shoulder, I met Mackenzie's gaze and nodded. You're right, I said, reaching for the pen. We will be okay. As I signed my name on the divorce papers, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in years, I felt hope. Hope for a future free from manipulation and betrayal. Hope for a life where Emily and I could thrive. I closed the laptop, my decision made. Mackenzie, can you call your lawyer friend? It's time to take back our lives. The lawyer's office felt suffocating as I sat across from Alex, the divorce papers between us like a chasm. Mackenzie squeezed my hand under the table, a silent reminder of her support. Emily waited outside, insisting on being here despite my reservations. "You can't be serious about this, Becky," Alex pleaded, his eyes darting between me and the papers. "We can work it out. I'll send Mom to a retirement community, please." I steeled myself against the familiar pull of his words. "It's too late for that, Alex. You've made your choice, time and time again." Our lawyer, Sarah, cleared her throat. "Mr. Drew, we've outlined the division of assets. Given the circumstances, Mrs. Sullivan is entitled to—" "Entitled?" Alex's face contorted with anger. "She's not entitled to anything. It's my money." I felt a surge of righteous fury. "Your money? The money you've been funneling to your mother? The money from our daughter's college fund?" Alex paled, caught off guard. "How did you?" "It doesn't matter," I cut him off. "What matters is that you betrayed us, Alex, me and Emily both." Sarah intervened, her voice calm but firm. "Mr. Drew, given the evidence of financial misconduct, you're facing serious legal consequences. This settlement is more than fair." Alex's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, but he shook his head, eyes blazing. "I won't sign. You can't make me." "Then we'll see you in court," Sarah replied coolly. As we stood to leave, the door burst open. Martha stormed in, her face a mask of fury. "You ungrateful witch! How dare you try to ruin my son's life?" Mackenzie stepped between us, but Martha was undeterred. "After everything we've done for you, Alex, don't you dare sign those papers. She doesn't deserve a penny." I watched as Alex's resolve visibly strengthened under his mother's influence. Any hope of an amicable resolution evaporated. "Fine," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "We'll do this the hard way." As we left the office, Emily rushed to my side. "Mom, what happened?" I hugged her close, my heart breaking at the worry in her eyes. "It's okay, sweetie. We're going to be okay." But as we drove home, the reality of our situation crashed over me. A lengthy court battle would drain what little resources we had left. How would I provide for Emily? How could I fight Alex and Martha's combined resources? At home, I excused myself and retreated to the bathroom, finally allowing the tears to fall. The weight of everything, the betrayal, the uncertainty, the fear, threatened to crush me. A soft knock interrupted my breakdown. "Mom?" Emily's voice called. "Can I come in?" I quickly wiped my eyes and opened the door. Emily took one look at me and wrapped her arms around my waist. "We're going to make it," she said fiercely. "We don't need them. We have each other." Her words, so full of conviction, pierced through my despair. I hugged her back, marveling at her strength. "You're right," I whispered. "We do have each other." As we stood there, I felt a shift inside me. The fear and doubt receded, replaced by a steely determination. Alex and Martha had underestimated me for the last time. I gently pulled away from Emily, meeting her gaze. "Honey, I need you to be strong for a little while longer. Things might get tough, but I promise you, I'm going to fight for us with everything I have." Emily nodded, her jaw set in a determined line that mirrored my own. "I know, Mom, and I'll be right here with you." In that moment, looking at my brave, resilient daughter, I knew I had to win this battle, not just for myself, but for her future, for the life we deserved. I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. "Okay," I said, more to myself than to Emily. "Let's show them what we're made of." As we walked out of the bathroom together, I felt a newfound resolve coursing through me. The road ahead would be hard, but I was ready to fight, ready to reclaim our lives, and ready to build a future free from Alex and Martha's toxic influence. The real battle was just beginning, and I was prepared to give it everything I had. The moving truck rumbled to life outside our house. No, Alex's house now. I stood in the barren living room, surrounded by empty spaces where our life together once resided. Emily appeared at my side, her face a mix of determination and apprehension. "Is this really happening, Mom?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I squeezed her hand. "Yes, sweetie, it's time." As if on cue, the front door burst open. Alex stormed in, his face contorted with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I steeled myself, meeting his gaze. "We're leaving, Alex, for good." His eyes darted around the room, taking in the bare walls and empty spaces. "You can't just take everything. This is my house." "Your house?" I laughed bitterly. "Everything I'm taking, I bought with my own money. Money you didn't manage to funnel into your mother's account. Alex's face paled. You don't understand. Mom needed. Save it. I cut him off. We're done here. As we moved towards the door, Martha appeared, her eyes widening at the sight of the empty house. What have you done, you spiteful witch? I felt Emily tense beside me, but I stood my ground. I'm taking back what's rightfully ours, Martha. You've taken enough from us. Martha's face twisted with fury. She lunged forward, grabbing a vase, one of the few items left, and hurled it at us. I pushed Emily out of the way, feeling the sting as shards of ceramic sliced my arm. Mom, Emily cried out. That's assault! Mackenzie's voice rang out. She stood in the doorway, phone in hand, recording everything. It's all on video, Martha. Back off. Alex grabbed his mother's arm, finally seeming to realize the gravity of the situation. Mom, stop. This isn't helping. I clutched my bleeding arm, adrenaline coursing through me. We're leaving now. Our lawyer will be in touch. As we walked out, I heard Martha's shrill voice. You'll regret this, Rebecca. We'll destroy you in court. The drive to our new apartment was tense. Emily kept glancing at my arm, worry etched on her face. Are you okay, Mom? I managed to smile. I'm fine, sweetie. It's just a scratch. But inside I was trembling. Martha's threat echoed in my mind. Could they really destroy us in court? I thought of the meager savings we had left, the uncertain future ahead. At the new apartment, reality hit hard. Our furniture looked shabby in the harsh light of the empty rooms. Emily's face fell as she surveyed her tiny bedroom. It's cozy, she said, trying to sound upbeat. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I'm so sorry, Emily. I know this isn't what you're used to. She turned to me, her eyes fierce. Don't apologize, Mom. We're free now. That's what matters. As we unpacked, my phone buzzed incessantly. Texts from Alex, voicemails from Martha, emails from their lawyer. Each notification felt like a blow, chipping away at my resolve. Late that night, after Emily had gone to bed, I sat on our second-hand couch, overwhelmed by the enormity of what we'd done. The apartment felt alien, a far cry from the home we'd left behind. Doubt crept in, insidious and persistent. Had I made a terrible mistake? Could I really provide for Emily on my own? What if Martha was right, and they did destroy us in court? I buried my face in my hands, tears flowing freely. The weight of our uncertain future pressed down on me, threatening to crush my spirit. A soft touch on my shoulders startled me. Emily stood there, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Mom, are you okay? I tried to wipe away my tears to be strong for her, but I couldn't stop the sobs that racked my body. Emily sat beside me, wrapping her arms around me. It's okay, Mom, she whispered. We're going to be okay. As I clung to my daughter, I realized the true magnitude of what lay ahead. This wasn't just about surviving a divorce or standing up to Martha. This was about rebuilding our entire lives from the ground up. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with legal battles and financial struggles. But looking at Emily, seeing her strength and resilience, I knew one thing for certain. We would face it together, no matter what came our way. I stood outside the courthouse, my heart pounding. Today was the final hearing in our divorce case. Emily squeezed my hand, her presence a steady anchor in the storm of emotions swirling within me. You've got this, Mom, she whispered. As we walked in, I caught sight of Alex and Martha. They looked haggard, a far cry from the polished, entitled pair they'd been months ago. Our eyes met, and for a moment I saw a flicker of regret in Alex's gaze. But then Martha whispered something in his ear, and his face hardened once more. The hearing was a blur of legal jargon and tense exchanges. Our lawyer presented evidence of Alex's financial misconduct, of Martha's lavish spending at our expense. I watched as the judge's expression grew increasingly stern. When it was my turn to speak, I stood on shaky legs, but as I began to recount our story, the years of manipulation, the disregard for Emily's well-being, the betrayal of our family's future, I felt a strength I didn't know I possessed surge through me. Your Honor, I concluded, my voice steady, I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for justice, for a chance to rebuild the life that was stolen from us. The judge's verdict came swiftly. In light of the evidence, she ruled heavily in our favor. Alex was ordered to repay the money he'd funneled to Martha, and a significant portion of our assets were awarded to me and Emily. As the gavel fell, I heard Martha's indignant shriek, "This is outrageous! We'll appeal!" But Alex's shoulders slumped in defeat. Our eyes met across the courtroom, And in that moment, I saw the man I'd once loved, the man who'd been lost to his mother's influence. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of the justice served. Outside the courthouse, Emily hugged me fiercely. "We did it, Mom. We really did it." Mackenzie joined our embrace, tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you both," she said. As we celebrated that night in our small apartment, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would still be challenging, but for the first time in years, I felt hope for our future. Months passed, and slowly we rebuilt our lives. I threw myself into my work, earning a promotion that allowed us to move to a better apartment. Emily thrived in her new school, her confidence growing day by day. One afternoon, as I helped Emily prepare for her high school entrance exam, she paused, her expression serious. "Mom," she said softly, "I want you to know, I'm proud of you, for standing up to Dad and Grandma, for fighting for us. You're the strongest person I know." Tears welled in my eyes as I hugged her close. "Oh, sweetie, you're the one who gave me strength. We did this together." The day Emily's acceptance letter to the prestigious private high school arrived, we danced around the kitchen, laughing and crying in equal measure. As we collapsed on the couch, breathless with joy, I marveled at how far we'd come. "We made it, Em," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Look at everything we've accomplished." Emily smiled, her eyes shining. "We did, Mom, and it's just the beginning." That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on our journey. The pain, the fear, the uncertainty, it had all led us here to this moment of triumph. We'd faced down the storm and emerged stronger, our bond unbreakable. I thought of Alex and Martha, wondering if they'd found peace in the aftermath of our battle. Part of me hoped they had, that they'd learned from their mistakes. But a larger part of me realized it didn't matter anymore. We'd moved on, creating a life filled with love, respect, and mutual support. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. For my daughter's resilience, for my sister's unwavering support, for the strength I discovered within myself. We'd weathered the storm, and now, finally, we were home. Our story wasn't one of revenge, but of reclamation. We'd reclaimed our dignity, our future, and most importantly, our right to happiness. And as I closed my eyes, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, stronger than ever before.